Let's imagine some maybe cool graphic and maybe some intro music, maybe like a cool song that we have someone make for us. So I want everyone out there to imagine that right now. And then maybe it's like a smoke bomb. Welcome to our still unnamed fitness podcast for our members here at CrossFit South Bend. I'm one of the hosts, Brandon Wilton, and we're here with Carl Case. Introduce yourself, Carl, but say nothing more.
I'm Carl.
Yeah, perfect. So why does this podcast exist right now? So we're here to serve as a beacon for truth. And I know it sounds like a strong statement, right? But it's a place to have discussions around what might be best for you in health and fitness, and to deliver that to you or not. We get a lot of questions. We get tons of fitness questions, a lot of the same questions as well too. And as you'll see on today's episode, where we cover our purpose, vision, mission, values, and principles, that educating people and helping them with those questions and having discussions around fitness and health is really important to us within our community. So we've gathered up these questions, we've put things out for people to submit them, and we figured we would answer them in a podcast format. And if you have questions or topics you'd like to see covered in future episodes, feel free to email me, Brandon at CrossFitSouthBend.com, and I'll add it to the roster. Now, who are we? Now, I'm not going to get into like a huge backstory yet. Maybe down the line, people might want to hear us and our stories and how we got started. But I'm Brandon Wilton, founder, part owner of CrossFit South Bend, former firefighter, restaurant manager, martial arts, ultra runner, Highland Games, strongman, card magic, ordained minister, a bunch of random ass things that I like to kind of dabble in. Also, ground rules here. Cursing's fine. I'm cool with that. Fuck, shit, damn, bitch, motherfucker. I'll bleep these out, right, in post. So that'll be more fun. I think you can say whatever on this one. Carl, introduce yourself.
Yeah, so my name's Carl Case. I am the other owner here with Brandon. Same thing, a bit of everything. I am a high school rugby coach. I played rugby for a number of years, both in high school and men's league. Growing up, played just about every sport that you could. Went to school originally for business. I got a resource management and a small business degree, and then got into CrossFit, I think about a year into my college experience, and then fell in love with it and knew it was something I wanted to do after a bit of time. And then after meeting Brandon, that's when I came on board with him and have been here now since 2011 is when I officially started, in February, I think. So been here for a while for that. Husband, father to a 2-year-old. Let's see here. Yeah, I think that's about everything for now.
Yeah, right. You got a 2-year-old. I've got a 9, and now he's 8 months old. 8 months. Yeah. All right. Well, shoot. Now that we have introduced ourselves, when did we roll all of this stuff out? When did we start considering purpose, vision, mission, values, principles? Can you remember?
Man, I feel like this has to be maybe 6 years ago, maybe a little bit more. Yeah, I just remember, like, I think that's when we were getting more business savvy and working with mentors and things like that, and realized I think we just kind of like just been operating right with these kind of maybe undefined, you said the purpose, vision, mission, all that kind of stuff, and then realized this is something we need to actually like nail down. So I want to say, yeah, probably 6 or 8 years ago.
Yeah, we kind of put the cart before the horse on that, so to speak. If we were to do it all over again, a little bit of soul searching on what our PVMVP could have been would have been a better start for sure, I think. So yeah,
and alone in that, especially in at least the micro gym, right? A lot of people kind of get into it initially for passion's sake, and then figure out the business later down the road, which we're in that now. But a lot of people don't start that business acumen right away. It's like, oh, I really love this, let's go ahead and do this. And then a few years in, they figure out they got to start treating it like a business if they want to keep it going.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, why have a PVMVP, you know? At first it doesn't seem important, but I can tell you, you know, first off, you know, why does a company exist, right? And then companies are collections of people. Companies themselves don't have a value or purpose themselves. They're tools that individuals live their purpose through and express values through. So I guess a better question, you know, why do I and we exist? What makes the decision makers and stakeholders feel alive, and like what purpose do we want to drive forward? I think that, and you can add to some of this too, having a PVMVP helps define what services we provide, what services we don't provide. There's a market for everything. This helps weed out distractions, right? Who we serve and who we don't serve. This helps narrow down marketing efforts. Who we hire and who we don't hire. This keeps the company culture in line, and individuals should know how they fit within the overall vision of the business. And we weigh our yearly, quarterly, monthly, weekly, and daily actions against all of this as well too. Yeah, any other thoughts on that PVMVP, on that stuff?
I think just going like it gives us a guidepost, right? And it kind of, once we know who we are, then we can serve that, as opposed to, like you said, kind of being this jack of all trades, or kind of being anything and everything to everybody. But since we've been able to really hone in, like I said, who we are and what we aren't, I think we've been able to serve the people that we want to serve in our target market, and help them a lot better, and reach the right people, bring in the right coaching staff to further our mission. And if we hadn't done that, or in times we didn't, we were kind of just, I guess, wading through the dark, trying to just make our way through these things. But now that we know who we are, we're a mature business, we know what we want to do, what we don't want to do. I think it just allows us to streamline that target, as opposed to just like a shotgun approach, right? We've really honed in, right? And we're trying to hit those bullseyes now, as opposed to just aiming all over the dartboard.
Yeah, things have changed, I think, over the years, right? It's no longer the customer is right, it's the right customer is right. And if you don't know who the right customer is, then you're just going to be taking feedback from anyone and everyone. And if you have no direction for your business, you're likely to take on directions that'll probably make you unsatisfied, right? So
yeah, I mean, it's kind of like you're being at, I don't know, like always use analogies, like at sea, right? You don't have your North Star, like you're just kind of wandering, right, around the place, and you might surprise yourself and get somewhere, or you might just wander at sea and be lost. But having these allow us to have that, like I said, that guiding post, that North Star, to kind of push the mission, push everything in the direction that we want to take the business.
Yeah. So the structure of this, what does it look like? What does a PVMVP look like for those people who don't really know? The structure of it, well, there's a lot of different styles of it, but it typically starts very broad and vague, and then it gets more and more and more granular. And then everything ideally matches and aligns on the way down. Everything needs to support the broad and vague thing that exists above it, and we'll show you that in just a moment. But I think for a lot of these things, you need to get as close as possible to what do you actually do. Or I think it's okay to have aspirational goals, because when you first start a business, you're not actually doing anything, right? You first start going, and then there's a little bit of like vetting what your actions are against the purpose of the business. And then you got to consider, well, if we're not, do we change the purpose of the business, or do we change our actions? And there's been a little bit of that over the years, that's for sure. A lot of self-reflection and things like that. But yeah, they need to be, this is what you do, yeah, I think that's it. That's all I have to say on that. You know, I wish I
Yeah.
had imagine a cool graphic. Maybe it's a pyramid, upside down triangle, something like that, right? Yeah. Um, but your purpose, we'll start off with that. Your purpose. Why do we exist as a business? We exist to align, guide, inspire, and empower individuals through their fitness and health journey. And the reason I was very clear in speaking each one of those words is because we've really spent some time to consider what are the right words and what we need to use for each one of these. So like for align, that is to say, you come in to see us and these are the outcomes you're looking for. And then we have to look and say, well, currently from where you're at to where you want to be, here are the actions that are most likely going to get you there. And that includes the behaviors you need to adopt and the resources you need. This is also to say, we may tell you this is not right for you, right? Because we're not here to just, we'll tell you about this later on, but like our sales process is not really a sales process. It's just us sitting down, having a conversation and seeing, does what we offer align with, where you're going? Any thoughts on that?
No, I mean, I think you said our sales process really isn't a sales process. It's just, like you said, conversations, and that's how we want to do business and how we become comfortable to sit here and talk and have a conversation with people, and to just being truthful and honest. We're not trying to get like everyone in here and just trying to get to a 200-300 person gym and just find the numbers, right? We want to find somebody that aligns with our culture, our vision, as well as be honest with them. Like, you want to do X, Y, Z, like either it's something that we just don't do. You might want to go somewhere else and do that, or hey, you want to do this. Have you looked at it from this lens? Or here's a little bit of from our expertise, what we think is going to take it to get there. And kind of once again, are you okay with that? Because a lot of times I think we have people that come in with goals that aren't completely fleshed out. Like it's more of a surface level one. But by having these conversations, we can either give them better purpose, right, or realign, like you said, that goal for them, or like I said, just let them know, like, hey, it's like we're not a highly competitive CrossFit gym. So if you're expecting to do competitive workouts and kind of get your shit kicked in every day, it's just not what we're going to do, and that's all right. So yeah, I think that's step one, because otherwise we're not managing expectations, and then 2-3 months down the road, someone's going to be disappointed, right? If we weren't truthful and honest with them, we just got them in to get them in.
Yeah, sometimes that alignment piece is about going toward goals that you're not sure are right either, because you got to start somewhere. Sometimes people they don't have it fully fleshed out and they're like, I think I want to do this, or they say they want to, but we're getting a feel that they don't, and we're like, you know what, let's work toward it. And then the failure and dissatisfaction, or the realization that you're like, no, that wasn't it, that's part of the journey, right? Because you use that information, you'll build on that and say, well, let's go to another thing, yeah the guidance part of it. So we covered align as a word, and we won't do this for every single one of them, but I think with our purpose, it's important to cover each one of these. Guide, here's a list of possible next steps. Here are the boundaries that you can work within. We're here to help you figure out what options and have discussions around things that you may not know with the next step. You realize that this next step is going to take these resources and these times. Do you still want to try it, right? There's a lot of stuff to be said about just like having the guidance to weed out some of the distractions for a client as well too.
Yeah, I mean, that's where like having an expert kind of guide you along, that's come a long way, especially like information overload nowadays, right? There's so much out there to look at and consider, and what's bullshit and what's truth, and there's more than one way to do things, and having someone kind of show them the way through that is really helpful. And like I said, it's kind of just giving them here's how we're going to get there, and the steps, as opposed to just kind of like leaving them to their own devices.
Yeah. Nutrition, I think, is a really big place where we see a lot of this. They're like keto, paleo, intermittent fasting, carnivore, vegan, and just like, finding out, well, why is it that you want to try this? And what are you looking to get out of it? And then we can help kind of narrow those things down. And again, it doesn't even need to be a nutrition with a label on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just it can be just a style of eating that you want. But I think that's just to speak to the amount of complexity or choice that you have. Inspire. I think that it's a really important step to connect your goals and your actions to your values, the things that are truly important to you. How are these outcomes? How is getting leaner or getting more capable important to you in terms of what is truly important to you or a priority? If your kids are important to you, how does having better energy through the day going to relate to helping, supporting your kids? Or healthy habits going to show your kids that, oh, like these are good habits you want to uphold. Are you living that, right? So this inspiration is kind of an alignment piece and saying, like, are you doing what's really true to yourself? And you may not even know who, you haven't fleshed that out yet, right? But I think that's super important. And it happens in different ways at our gym, either individually or through group discussions as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's heard by now, or a lot of people have, that the Simon Sinek start with why, right? That's essentially like getting into this and not just getting with one why in there, getting 3, 4, 5 whys deep to really get to the heart and the root of it, and figure out what is, like I said, that driving motivation. What's going to be enhanced, or what's going to be better that you can't currently do or do as well as you'd like to right now. And using that to, like I said, make sure everything aligns, because we could have somebody that, I don't know, you've done more competitive CrossFit work with some people, and come to find out, kind of getting a few into it, it's not truly aligned with them and as important to them, and you see them fade out, right? So kind of allowing them to kind of see how it connects to the values, and just saying like, hey, like I'm seeing this, just kind of a heads up, and just things we're going to have to work on. It's like you said, it's okay if you don't have it right now, but we're going to have conversations and kind of work towards that. Otherwise, I think there's going to be a mismatch at some point.
Yeah, it's good to have a party that, well, we all have biases, but you may have just this wool over your eyes currently about like what it is you want to do, and it's easy to have, or it's nice to have someone else saying, no, I see your behaviors are different, right? Mm-hmm. Because our behaviors dictate what's a priority for us. Look at somebody's decisions, you follow that backward and look at their behavior, follow it back to their decisions. Why are they making the decisions that they're making? And then determine their perception. Like, what were you thinking when you were making this? And that starts to drill down of like your true priorities, right? Yeah. That's something that we're still trying to figure out, discussions around in group setting as well too, because we don't get as many touch points, as much time to just sit and have a conversation. And I don't think people are always down to sit there for 30-minute AMRAP, and then we're going to talk about values for another 30 minutes, right? And then empower. I think the empowerment piece, learning to walk is a really good analogy for empowerment, I think. So, you find out like you're a dad, where's your baby at? Is he standing up, right? And then you help them stand up, and then they fall down. You help them stand up, and then they fall down, and you're right in their face with it. And eventually they can just get up. It just clicks and they can kind of get up, and then they start to walk, and you're holding their fingers while they walk. They take a few steps, they fall down, and then you've got one hand on their fingers, and then eventually they get it and they click, and then you're walking behind them, and then you're walking beside them, and now they're just on their own. And I think that that's a really good analogy for like what it is in here. It's like, you may need a lot more when you first start. And then our job is to let you fail, you know, in a very tactical manner. And then you step back, step back, step back, but knowing that failure is a huge part of the process too. So yeah. What you think? What you think? Well, hold on. My notes.
Yeah.
Pretty much no notes here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I have a terrible amount to add to that, but like I think that's, like you said, like you said, empowering, like I said, giving you the tools to take these things into your own hands. So at one time or another, most people are going to leave us at some point, but hopefully we've given them the tools, right, to when they've left us, to continue this, all right, or when they realize, okay, I've gotten off track, but you know what, I know what CrossFit Without Ben has taught me. They taught me this process of how to do this. I know how to get back on track, because that's what's, I think, the most valuable in it, right? Is you're not just a parrot, right? Or you're not just a robot, right? You can take these in, you can learn how to do these things, and then just apply it to yourself. If we're not ever there, like I said, if you guys move away or something like that, but yeah, like I said, I think that's one of the more valuable things in that is just, like I said, making you responsible and know what to do to take your health, your fitness into your own hands.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it also goes with us coaches not disempowering ourselves by getting attached to someone else's results too. So, I've heard Robbie say it before, we can't be healthy for you. You need to do the work. Whether you do or not could be for so many reasons, but yeah, I think that's an important piece as well too, is that like you're the person that does the work. And you had mentioned eventually they may not be a member here, and that happens a lot, right? I think that's a lot of young business owners, like when someone leaves, they're like, oh my gosh, someone left. No, it's just not right for them right now. Or maybe there was something, you use it as feedback, right? There's the growth mindset that we'll talk about later, but use it as feedback. Well, why did this individual leave, and what can we learn from it? Were they just not right or ready for our service, right? But I think that's I think that's an important piece, is that you may have all the tools, but you may still enjoy the guidance, right? So that's why people will stay for we've had members, shout out to a few of our members have been here for almost 14 years, as long as we've been open, right? We'll do a special episode for them.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's our purpose, why we exist. And now we'll spend a little less time on some of these other ones, but vision. What do we see our life force creating? We want to have a larger positive impact on the fitness and health in our community. This version of this world in my head where people take on fitness, nutrition, and lifestyle habits that align with their values, and it supports this like larger version of their life they want to create for themselves. It gives them the energy they want to do things that really make them feel fulfilled and not drained afterwards, right? And that's when we say community as well too. Community doesn't have to be like this local thing. It can be something that exists, far outside. I've worked with clients in India, all over the US, and you've had contact with coaches kind of all over the US as well too. But our community isn't just here, it's anyone we reach out to. So
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I can say that much better than you did. Just like you said, just allowing people to live the biggest, baddest life that they want to, and giving them the tools to be able to do that.
Yeah, I like that. The biggest, baddest life. You know what? I might just change it. I like that better. Yeah. Our mission. How are we going to accomplish our mission through our behaviors? Okay. We align individuals to their own physical body through education, sound coaching practices, and guidance. I'll elaborate on that a little bit more, right? And how are we accomplishing this? Education, we ask questions. We've got a Facebook page for our members where they can ask questions. In person, people ask questions through email, through goal sessions. In group classes, it's through goal sessions. We schedule them each quarter. And then through individual services, there's a decent amount of like office time, face-to-face to ask questions. But we're pretty open when it comes to our education that we will dole out to members. All they have to do is request it, right? Sound coaching practices, and what I mean by that is communication and listening skills, setting expectations and boundaries, assessing goals and reassessing. This process is collaborative. We have to ask good questions and be that beacon of truth for them, right? Yeah, I think that's about all I got for that one. What do you think?
No, I mean, I think as we come back into the education piece, like we put some stuff that's out there, just general stuff out into the ether, whether that's through the Instagram pages or the social medias. And then we get honed in a bit more with our private Facebook group. And then we have our in-person touches that we get a little bit in classes with each individual, conversations we'll have over time. And then as far as group, the goal sessions of the quarterly are the best way for us to have that one-on-one 30, 45-minute conversation with them and guide them and educate them on things. And that's a big part of it. And we'll kind of get that down later, I think, in our values. But the educational piece is huge. Like I said, for that empowerment piece, right? Kind of going back to that purpose. That's how we can really empower those people.
Yeah. Like you said, we'll get down to it. We've got our values and our principles left, right? But again, broad, why does this company exist? Next, what do we want to create with this company? And then a little bit further down, well, what behaviors do we have to accomplish this? And then what are our beliefs? Do our beliefs and our compass of our actions support this? And these are things in your values that you, with 100% certainty, can you say that you do this? And I constantly reread these to say, are we still doing this? Could we do this better? What are other ways we could do this? How does this look in group? How does it look in individual? How does it look when we're speaking to our staff? If not, they may be aspirational, and that's okay, but we have to figure out how we're going to execute on these things. And I guess I could go through and just start hammering out some of them. Yeah. First one, relationships. We build relationships with clients on a foundation of transparency, trust, care, and consistency. We won't do the thing where I go over each word, but each word means something. I heard one of our members, Keith, say that the other day. Words mean something. It's important. I know he kind of says it in passing, but that's true. Words mean something. So, and I think a part of this is, if I don't think what we have is right for you, I'll tell you what might be. And we have to be okay with that, and like I said earlier, there may be times where we may not know if this is right for you, but you got to get into it to figure it out. And we have to be okay saying, no, looks like it didn't work out for you. So, yeah. Anything on the relationships piece?
No, I don't think I have anything out on that one.
Yeah. I want to reread it, make sure there's no other things I want to talk about with that one, because relationships look different. They look different in group, and they look different in individual design. And a lot of this is just how much one-on-one versus 1-on-15 and, so on and so forth. How much does that look like, right? So I think just, there's more to that, but we want to build it on those foundations of like, hey, here's what we do, here's what we don't do. And, just being very truthful about it and caring, but having a form of detached caring, and just being consistent. All of our actions are the same. We follow our guidelines. The next one is continued education. We think that continued education we believe we do, it allows us to create better solutions for our clients to foster individuals' goals and personal enrichment. Yeah, continued education, the knowledge of like the field of fitness and health is relatively young as far as like research is concerned relative to other fields, right? But we have our competence levels relative to our client, and really is our confidence, not our confidence, but our competence above our clients? Can we support them and give them what they need as far as our education is concerned? And are you learning? Are you continuing education where you intend on prescribing it? If one of our coaches wants to be really, really good, I mean, your sports performance, like every day learning more about sports performance and working with kids and teens, and you are learning and growing in that area so that you can be really good with where you intend on prescribing it.
Yeah, I think also that allows you, hopefully, to avoid like dogmatic practices, right? If you're continuing learning and growing, and you're not just locked in, like I could easily have been locked in, like to like, I found starting strength, and starting strength is the one and only way to do anything or everything, or same thing like CrossFit, complete randomization for anyone and everyone. Like, I think if we had kind of at that entry point when we first got into this, and if we had just sat there, right, I think we would have dug our heels in and been less open to looking at different things and kind of considering, okay, what's the validity of this? Do I see something in this? Okay, can I put this into practice and see how it looks and how it works and things like that, and then continue and grow and enhance who we work with and how we work with them, and be able to get them better results. I mean, I think recently, like within the last like couple of years, like something that's really interested me has kind of been more like, and the coaches will see this a lot from our communication stuff that we do with them, is kind of like more of the soft skills, the communication, the building relationships, and how we interact with them, and not just necessarily like sets, reps, and technical skills. Because a lot of that success comes to your ability to communicate with a member, and everyone's different. Humans are complicated, right? So just, like I said, just allowing us to have more options and not just sit back and dig our heels in on one area and be open. It's kind of like, I don't know if it's Bruce Lee Jeet Kune Do, right? Take in what's useful, take in and pick out what's not, and kind of create your own thing that's uniquely you. I probably really butchered that, but it's kind of just taking in everything and figure out what's useful and what's not useful.
Yeah, Bruce Lee's rolling over in his grave right now. Yeah. Gosh, yeah, that's important. I think you were talking about, communicating with our members, and I think a lot of people, the training and the workouts are the flashy thing, right? But they are probably of least importance. I mean, they're important, right? Movement is important. Resistance and that your training matches what you want is important. But like communicating and finding out why your behaviors are what they are, and what your sleep and your stress and your rhythm through the day, and how much water are you drinking, and are you chewing your food? Like all of those things are so important relative to training. Having one without the other, doesn't make a ton of sense to us. So introducing those conversations into class as well.
Yeah, I was kind of running back a little bit. So when I was doing, so I did seminars for CrossFit Football Power Athlete back in the day, and a big part of that was speaking and giving lectures, and definitely that was one of my fortes, but I had to do a lot of learning and research on that. And then in that, I did like a whole article series on just communication, right? And then I came across a quote talking about the communication piece. It's basically like how strong words are. Like he said, words mean something. Like, so words like have the ability to say I love you and show compassion, but words also have the ability to start a war, right? So just like I said, just learning how to like communicate with people, and like you said, words mean something.
Yeah.
I will kind of get a little bit of a tangent off the communication things, but yeah.
No, I think that's just constantly like in your practice, like you said, notice how you're deficient. Find out, is that the next direction I should take in my education? And we're constantly kind of triaging our education because we
Yeah.
have to wear a lot of hats, right? And then prescribing it and executing on it, and just concentric circles of that for years and years. Yeah, no, that's a good point though. Just what it is you're focusing on and why. Help first. Every individual should walk away with us, from us, in interaction with us, with something valuable, whether they buy something from us or not. I think this one came from a few different things. My biases on helping and being a helper from growing up, and that's a whole nother week. That'd be a fun topic to talk about, like where your behaviors come from.
Yeah.
But the secondary thing is how many bad sales processes that I went through that made me feel dirty, growing up. You get sold something and you're walking out with instant regret, right? But like when someone sits down in front of us, we are human. You're a human. I am a human. There's good in all of us. You're in front of us for a reason. You went through and you were Google searching something and you got a problem you're trying to solve. And we're in front of you not to make a sale by any means necessary. We're here to have a conversation to find out, who are you? What are your problems? Why do you have these problems? And then the best we can with the data that in knowledge that we've gained, does this seem like a good fit? If so, here's what an equal exchange of energy looks like for us to make a living professionally doing that, right? That is our sales process in a nutshell. You're here, I'm here. Cool. I understand you a little bit. I think we can work this out. Here's the way it would work. Here's how much money it costs. Do you want to do that? Right? So,
Right.
yeah. And even if you don't want to, we're not just going to be like, get out the door. You know what? I think this is probably better for you. We want to turn you towards something because that's going to help the community. If we just give you a little guidance to put you in the right direction to, hey, maybe you should just start walking 3 days a week. Maybe you should start doing this, however little or large the amount of help we can provide.
Yeah. So I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of the constant help first came from our first business mentor, Chris Cooper. That was like his big kind of like, I guess, quote unquote, sales process. And like you said, I think both you and I, and a lot of people, when they think sales, it's like, ugh, like it's just like it's this dirty, uncomfortable thing, like the stereotypical used car salesman or something like that that's just trying to meet a quota and things like that. And I think in the beginning we kind of had this weird relationship with sales, and like personally myself, like money, and like, are we worth what we're kind of giving them? And just the sales process just didn't feel genuine, unique, or right. But when we kind of learned this concept from him, like you said, like we're just here to have a conversation. Like I have the expertise and the ability to help you, right? And you're coming to me with a problem, and I'm just here to talk about it. I'm here to learn about it. I'm here to give you some thoughts on how our prescription, our model would help you through that, as well as give you some guidance. Like you said, maybe it's like, okay, maybe it's get out and walking, or maybe it's get a little more active, or okay, maybe it's drinking more water or something like that. And they walk away with something that's useful. And at the end of the day, if they decide they're not right for us, whether it's not a fit money wise, just kind of what they want to do wise, at the end of the day, like I can walk away feeling fine with that, right? And I didn't feel this pressure to have to like close this sale, like a 24-hour fitness or something like that, where it's like, gotta get those numbers. It's just, like you said, we're here a conversation. At the end of the day, if we both mutually agree that this is the right step, then both, I think, feel better about that. And the customer, I think, wins too, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'd imagine most times they don't walk away with immediate regret, right? And like, oh, I got duped into a membership at CrossFit South Bend. I think they walk away knowing like, okay, like this is at least something that I think is going to get me in the right direction. Not after it's like, oh man, I signed a 6-month agreement. What did I just do? I
Mm-hmm.
got tricked. So I think it helps us feel better about it, and as well as the member, the potential member feel better about the experience and just have a genuine experience too. It's not just this. It's like he's like, oh, you want my money, right? That's what you're really trying to do. But it's like it's a genuine interaction experience about what they're looking to do.
Yeah. Sorry, you didn't cut off. You just got a little choppy there for a second, but you're back now. Your lips were just a little off from there. Yeah, and I think we've had people return to us where someone was in a position where it just wasn't right for them. We gave them some advice, and they hit Amy up a few months later. They're like, hey, I followed your advice and I got these results from it, so thank you. So I think we've seen that on multiple occasions. Yeah. And we don't do a lot of, for those of you in sales out there, we don't do a lot of like overcoming objections, right? Objections are when you do your little sales thing. Let's say, if I were a car salesman, right? And somebody is, they're like, oh, it's too expensive. That is an objection, right? And then the sales team has a bunch of, well, here's some ways we can overcome their objections. We don't do that. We're like, you got to think about it. Get out of here. Go think about it, and I think that makes us all feel better about it. So yeah. The Oasis. We create a strong and wholesome community where we nurture a culture of open-mindedness and creative expression with a respectful attitude. Essentially, don't be a dick in a nutshell, right? Be yourself. Don't ridicule people for being themselves unless, those people are also being dicks, in which case, call on it, right? This one I have I've got a relationship with, because ridicule for me is a form of connection with the right person. If I've known you for a while, right, that's my just belittling you aggressively is the way I say I love you. Yeah. Yeah. I think this is a hard one sometimes, because they'll come in and we've had to put boundaries around this in our group classes, right? Because there is a time and place to have difficult conversations, or ones where, like, you get a group of 20 people together, they have a range of beliefs and sensitivities, and something that you're like, well, this is definitely on the outskirts of this, where you could perceive this as like a very difficult conversation for some. And not everyone, you get a lot of people in a room like that, not everyone knows how to handle it. So we've had to draw some boundaries around this, but I'm totally down with, like, hey, let's talk about this afterwards, right? Because there's a time and a place for these types of things, but immediately snapping at people isn't the best way to go about this.
Yeah, I mean, same thing. I don't really have too much to add to that one thing. I kind of hits the nail on the head. Like I said, just be in a place that's, like I said, we're here, we're open-minded, and like I said, we're not going to just completely like just have this, I guess, judgmental, or it's like it's cliquey, or it's like only certain things, certain type of people, or whatnot. It's like you said, like that open-mindedness with that respectfulness to it behind it. And even with that, like, we're still not going to be for everybody, even though we say we have this wholesome community, like, but everybody's going to have a different community that they identify with and connect with. But
yeah, I don't think much else to add to that one. Oh, know thyself. You had mentioned the growth mindset earlier, and this one kind of expands on this. So we guide our clients toward higher levels of self-awareness to cultivate a growth mindset. And it starts with you yourself, not hiding from your thoughts and feelings, but taking them in and learning from them and asking better questions of yourself. How you perceive failure and challenges and criticism and other people's success, your own intelligence, your ego, your values, your motivators, right? Like, there is a lot to be said about when someone comes in and you're starting to notice all of these traits of a fixed mindset, and then just calling them what they are and challenging people on it. I think that's super important. Yeah.
Yeah, so one of those things I always love, like you can kind of look and see people. It's like, do things happen to people, right? Or do dang it, how am I gonna butcher that? Basically, so it's just things just like always happen to me, right? There's this external force that's always working against me, right? Or just things just happen, and then like when we learn, we grow, and we kind of identify, okay, what, or it's like the world versus me. Um,
Yeah.
you kind of get into that, and which is with the growth mindset. Like I always thought about that too. Is like, well, if it's the world against you, it's pretty lonely, as well as it gives you no power, right? If we go back to that empowerment side of things, if everything's there's nothing you can do about it, then what's the point? But on the empowerment side, it's like, okay, I can take these things, I can learn from them, I can grow. Like I said, I can take this failure. Okay, I can internalize this. What happened? Okay, what can I do next time? As opposed to like, oh nope, just that's just how it is, or this person doesn't like me, or whatnot. Um, so yeah.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I've seen that quite a few times, right? Like the world is the wind and I'm just a plastic bag floating in it. Like things happen to me and I don't have control over any of it. And I think you have to own your contributions and own your actions, and look at them without judgment, and say like, oh, how could I have changed this? How could I have done this? How much control did I truly have against this,
Mm-hmm.
right? um and I think it involves facing the truth about things like failure, and um how you perceive that, and where did you get that from growing up. How did your parents perceive failure? How were you treated if you had bad grades, and so on and so forth, right? And you got to break that cycle, this generational cycle of things. Your grandparents taught your parents stuff and your parents taught you stuff, and we're essentially just putting our shit onto the next generation. But sometimes you look at it and be like, I don't know if I want to put that shit on my kids. I don't know if this is good. So yeah, don't want to get on a tangent with that one, but yeah.
Yeah.
And then the journey, we embrace fitness and health as a journey. This isn't a fast track. It is a part of life. It is like brushing your teeth. It's not something that should be perceived as a chore or a punishment. It's something that allows you to express this grand version of your life. And it supports these things that you love. I don't care what you're doing. If you play video games, what is going to give you mental clarity throughout the day to play video games? Chewing your food, really good gut health, getting out and doing easy polarized, meaning like easy resistance training and map 10 stuff. I've thought about this before because I was playing video games with Calvin yesterday. So like, that's what mental acuity looks like. So when they're on it, they're ready to go, yeah. That's, I mean, anything to add on that one?
No, I mean, just like you said, and this is kind of like, say, going back to, I guess, the empowerment a little bit in my head is like embracing the fitness journey and health. And like, this isn't a fast track, right? Like, it's just, we're hopefully giving the tools. Like, this just now becomes how you do things, how you live your life. Like, it's not like, okay, I'm going to do this 30-day nutrition challenge and lose 24 pounds in a month. And then guess what? 2 months later, it's all back because I just went hot and heavy for really quick. And then, you know what, I didn't actually create any sustainable habits. And then it was a part of my life for a very short time, but like that slow, consistent drip of increasing these habits and working on that and taking care of your life and taking ownership of it. And then, like I said, like brushing your teeth, it's like, it's just what's something we do. It's not, we're not doing it because we're told to. I mean, it's kind of, fitness is kind of an interesting thing too. It's like life. I've heard this on another podcast. Like basically, life is so easy now, at least, and a lot of the first worlds that like we have to have this construct of working out to make up for the lack of physical activity that we would normally have, right? But it's something that we need to do, right, to enjoy and express whatever you said the grand version of our life is. so yeah, I think, like I said, just kind of looking at this, the big picture thing, and not just, okay, the next 3 months, next 6 months, or like I have to go to the gym so I can, I don't know, do have, like I said, if people are like, oh, I have to go to the gym because I eat this way, or things like that. Like an enhancement thing, not not something you just, like you said, like it's a chore.
Yeah. And if you do perceive it that way, we need to have some conversations around it, and it may take a little while. But you mentioned the quick weight loss. Like, we do tell people that fitness, true fitness, and this health and fitness journey is not a fast track. I don't think that means that I haven't fast tracked people purposefully for the right reasons before. I've worked with ID clients, individual design clients, where they're like, listen, dude, I just want to get lean for the summer, and the summer's coming up. It's 4 months out. This is what lean means. And I look at it and I say, okay, you know what? We can do that, and we can do it in a safe way. So that's the boundary, right? If somebody's like 50 pounds in a month, like, this is not safe. Like, this thing is not safe for you. But if we're like, oh, we can do that reasonably. Now, I do have to be, this is where our transparency comes in. I do have to be transparent with you that these habits will most likely not be sustainable. It takes a while to develop habits where you don't have to think about it. It is unconscious competence, where you don't have to think about drinking enough water. You're just like, here it is. It exists next to me all the time without me having to think about it, right? So as long as they're like, yeah, cool, whatever, I get it, I just want to look jacked, I'm like, got it, let's
Right.
go. So I think that is something to be said of, like, context matters with some of these things too. Like, we've done it, but I don't think there's ever a time where we're like, but this is the pros and cons with it, right? Yeah. Ooh, we're almost there. Principles. Well, how do we carry out our values? So how do we carry those out? And I mean, you can stop me on these, but like, relationships, how do we carry that out? Well, we practice honesty, transparency, and consistency with clients, right? If I tell you, for consistency, to color that, if I tell you I program for you at Wednesdays at this time, or I expect that you do this, it's at this time that I expect consistency out of this. I'm going to send this out at this time. So, like, just making sure that we're very consistent and we're setting these expectations with clients. You feel free to stop me. I can just roll through some of these.
Yeah, just keep rolling. I'll interject.
Yeah.
I feel like I need to.
Continued education. Well, as coaches, to challenge each other and to continue seeking out knowledge in the areas that we intend to prescribe it. Help first, to be present with clients and potential clients, to meet them where they're at with their resources and what they're capable of. And then we just give them insight into what might be beneficial for them. The Oasis, to learn about, listen, and be open to discussions with our clients without judgment. Know thyself, to practice personal awareness in ourselves, and to practice the art of communication and consulting. In this one, we brought back to ourselves how we're going to carry it out, because I don't think you can really teach this as well if you don't know yourself, if you haven't practiced it yourself, if you haven't taken yourself through these processes, or even if you already have these processes and this growth mindset inherent of you to understand what it could look like, otherwise. But we have to practice it in ourselves and practice the art of communication and consulting. So you need to know where you sit. Carl, let's say you and I are sitting across from each other in a consult. You need to know where you sit, and it's good to, like, be able to notice your biases and what your beliefs are, so that you can then disconnect them from mine, and understand that I have my own biases and thoughts and beliefs. And now we can start to, you don't want to put that shit on me, so that's really important, I think, in that relationship. And then the journey, to align where clients currently are and their goals with their ideal version of fitness, and to teach clients the behaviors and tools that will help them live long and prosper so they develop autonomy over their health, or as much autonomy as they can in the time that we have the relationship. That's it. That's it.
Did we do it?
Yeah, I think we did it. I think that's, I mean, guys, give us, yeah, this is number one. We were just like, you know, fuck it, let's do it live. Let's get in, let's try this format. And you know what? We don't have an outro, no promos in the middle, you know, no commercials. Maybe we'll see how this one goes. You know, and then, you know, I like that our first dozen episodes are pretty loose and fast, and we can be a work in progress and change it. You know, we'll have promos for things we want to be sponsored by. Maybe I'll start putting shout outs for ridiculous shit in here. But yeah, no outro. I think just goodbye for now.
All right. See you guys.